At least, that's what I thought. Some kind of high-tech trap with auto syringes, a smart bed designed not to comfort you, but to subdue you. Too bad for them, though. They hadn't accounted for one tiny little problem. I had a high tolerance. A lifetime's worth. And the average dose that would have knocked out anyone else? It was barely making a dent. As the darkness hovered just out of reach, I realized. The detox from hell had made its first mistake. And maybe, just maybe, that mistake would be enough to save me. I waited. I sat there, wrists burning from the restraints, my stomach knotting tighter with each passing minute. The silence was unbearable, thick, suffocating. Eventually, they'd have to bring me food. They couldn't just let me rot in here. Could they? The only person who'd ever resembled anything close to normal was Gay Ray. I called him that in my head. I started to cry, quiet at first, just a trickle. But then something broke open inside me, and the tears came hard and fast. A full collapse. Like the levees gave way and everything inside me poured out. What the hell was this place? Hope felt like a dream someone else had. And reality. Reality was a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Starvation seemed unlikely. No, they needed me breathing. Obedient. Something they could mold and manipulate. That's why they drugged me. They thought they could soften me up, lull me into a stupor and make me easier to handle. Pathetic. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I stared at the door, and that's when a colder thought slithered in. What exactly were they planning to feed me? Because if they were willing to drug me without blinking, what else might they slip onto a plate and call dinner? See, I must have been convinced that I had ESP because shortly after, I heard a loud crackling voice over some hidden intercom.
We're bringing your first meal. We'll lift the restraints. Behave. And maybe we won't have to put them back on.
The message fizzled into static. A moment later, my restraints clicked open, releasing their cold grip from my wrists and ankles without warning, like some unseen hand had just decided to let me loose. I didn't have long to wonder why. 5 minutes later, someone, or something, entered my bay. At first glance, he looked like a man. Almost. But the longer I stared, the faster that illusion crumbled. He looked like he'd been dredged up straight from the bottom of the uncanny valley. A grotesque mockery of humanity. He moved with a stiff, twitching gait, as if even his bones weren't quite convinced they belonged inside his body. His complexion was the color of storm clouds on the verge of unleashing hell, a brittle, ashen gray. Closer up. It got worse. He was short in stature. His skin seemed paper-thin and cracked, riddled with dark, pulsating boils that shifted from purple to black, swelling grotesquely before shrinking back, only to pulse again like some sick heartbeat. Beneath the surface, something was moving. Rippling. Under his skin, the way disturbed water shivers outward from a dropped stone. Whatever writhed underneath was close, so close, like it could tear through the fragile membrane of his flesh at any moment. The air soured around him, a stomach-churning blend of stale sulfur and cheap, choking cologne, a feeble, desperate attempt to mask the stench festering beneath. And he was carrying a tray. He moved with a stiff, twitching gait, a severe hunch forcing his head down toward the floor. His short, misshapen legs barely carried him forward, one noticeably longer than the other, causing him to list heavily to the right with every dragging step. The way he trudged toward me, leaning and stumbling, felt wrong, like a puppet jerked along by broken strings. He stopped at the foot of the bed and lifted his head, just barely. And that's when he spoke. His voice was worse than his appearance, a dry, scraping rasp, like metal dragging across brittle bone. Every word vibrated wrong, scratching at the inside of my skull, making my skin crawl.
Eat.
He croaked, his lips barely peeling apart, dry skin cracking at the corners like old leather. I was too traumatized to speak. Instead, I just thought to myself, if you think I'm eating anything you dragged in here, you're out of your damn mind. He didn't even flinch. Just repeated.
Eat.
A little louder. A little more broken.
You need your strength.
He rasped. As he shuffled closer, I saw him struggle to lift the metal tray above his head. The moment he got within striking distance, adrenaline surged through me like I was on autopilot. I made a move that surprised even myself. Fear and adrenaline, there's something else I honestly didn't know I had it in me. Leaping from my bunk, a solid 8 feet off the ground. I slipped for a split second, but caught myself mid-fall. In one violent lunge, I snatched the tray from his feeble hands, food splattering across the room like gore from an open wound. Before he could react, I swung. The tray cracked against his brittle skull with a sickening thunk. He let out a loud yelp, then he slipped on a puddle of applesauce, his legs shooting out from under him in opposite directions. The intercom buzzed to life overhead, shrieking,
"Code Blue! Code Blue!"
I didn't wait. I smashed him again. He let out a hideous shriek, a sound like a dying animal mixed with metal tearing, and something foul burst from his cracked skull. A thick gush of dark yellow fluid, reeking of sulfur and vomit so rancid it clawed at the back of my throat, spilled onto the floor. The substance wasn't just disgusting, it was alive. The second it hit the tile, it split apart, morphing into hundreds of bloated, writhing creatures. Maggot-like things. Purple-black with bloated scarlet bellies and hundreds of tiny twitching yellow legs. They skittered toward me in a wriggling, horrific wave, crawling up my legs, digging in with tiny hooked claws. I screamed, not a normal scream, but a raw, primal howl, swiping at them, feeling their disgusting bodies cling to my skin. That's when Gay Ray kicked the door open, a wild look in his eyes and some kind of device slung in his arms. It looked like a fire extinguisher crossed with a weaponized can of raid.
Drop your pants now.
He ordered, aiming the nozzle at me.
If they find an orifice, they'll burrow under your skin.
I didn't argue. I stripped faster than a drunk prom queen on prom night, kicking my pants across the room as the parasites kept swarming. The moment he got within striking distance, adrenaline surged through me like I was on autopilot. Asterisk these repulsive maggot-like creatures crawling up my leg. But even that didn't prepare me for what came next. Gay Ray unleashed a blast of thick blue mist that hit the writhing bugs like holy fire, and I swear, they screamed. Not with sound, but in the way they spasmed and curled, bursting open like overripe fruit, leaving behind greasy, black smears that sizzled on the tile. I sat there on my butt, frozen in place, yet thrashing like I was on fire. My body couldn't decide between stillness and panic. I couldn't stop screaming. My legs flailed, slamming into the floor as I kept swatting at phantoms, the ghost trace of those slick, worm-like things still crawling on my skin, in my hair, under my clothes. Everything smelled like ozone and rot. My throat was raw from screaming, my hands were red and trembling, clawing at invisible things. Gay Ray was saying something. Maybe calling my name, but his voice was underwater, distant, like the world had tilted, and I was slipping backward into some place I couldn't crawl out of. He tightly embraced me in an effort to calm me down.
They're gone. Calm down.
He said.
It's over.
At first, his voice barely registered, just a muffled hum through the storm in my head, but eventually, the repetition started to cut through. Like a distant lighthouse blinking through thick fog. I don't know how long I stayed like that, curled up, shaking, smearing tears and grime across my face, still brushing at my arms like they were crawling with fire. But something in me finally started to slow down. My breath, jagged and hitching, began to even out. The screaming stopped, my body stopped jerking. I blinked hard. Swallowed, looked around, they were gone. Just slick, oily stains on the floor where they had died. The blue mist was thinning. The air still tasted metallic. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. But I wasn't. I was far from okay. Once he was satisfied I was calm, he turned to face me, his expression grim.
You're lucky.
he said, voice low and rattling.
If even one of those things had made it into any of your orifices, it would have been game over.
Thank you. I think. I managed, barely above a whisper. I was still gasping for air, my chest heaving. Before he could respond, a pair of orderlies, dressed head to toe in sterile, blinding white, shuffled into the room. Without a word, they began dragging away what was left of the eager-looking creature, its body leaking dark sludge onto the floor behind them, leaving a trail like some grotesque snail. Gay Ray stayed silent for a moment, watching them work. Then he spoke again, voice colder now.
When they get back,
He said, not meeting my eyes.
they'll put you back in your bed. The restraints are going back on. You failed to behave.
I couldn't hold it in anymore. Why are you doing this? I screamed, my voice cracking under the weight of panic. Why did they kidnap me? Why is this happening? He stood there, silent. Not even flinching. For a long moment, I thought he wasn't going to answer at all. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, he looked down, eyes hollow, and muttered.
I'm sorry.
That was it, no explanation, no comfort, no truth, just those two worthless words, and then he turned and walked away, leaving me alone with the questions and the creeping realization that no one was coming to save me. The orderlies returned. They wore brilliant white scrubs, spotless, finely pressed, their faces utterly blank, and I don't mean expressionless. I mean they didn't have a face at all. Just smooth, pale flesh stretched over where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, like someone had taken a hot iron to their skulls and erased every trace of humanity. They moved stiffly, jerkily, as if freshly reanimated, joints locked in the grip of rigor mortis, limbs dragging like puppets pulled by invisible strings. There was no empathy, no recognition in their posture, just a cold, mechanical intent. To them, I wasn't a person. I was an inconvenience. Something to be removed. Without a word, they slammed me back onto the bed, tightening the restraints with mechanical efficiency. Their hands were cold, indifferent. And somehow, they could still talk. Don't ask me how. There was nothing there to talk with. No mouth, no lips, not even the ghost of a jawline, just smooth, stretched skin, like something unspeakable had been sealed beneath it, writhing. But the sound came anyway. It didn't emerge, it forced its way out. It didn't echo. It didn't chime. It hung. Maybe it rose from somewhere deeper, somewhere older, from the depths of hell itself. I couldn't tell if they were speaking to me or through me, but I knew one thing: whatever was making that sound, it wasn't human.
That little stunt you pulled just cost you your dinner.
And with that, they were gone, leaving me shackled, starving, and more alone than ever. And once again I felt that familiar pinprick in my butt, the injection, the auto syringe, some heavy-duty sedative, and then I fell fast asleep. I woke up to what felt like 12 hours later, my body heavy and numb, like I'd been buried alive in wet cement. They must have pumped me full of something stronger, a megadose, because even the screaming inside my own head had gone silent for a while. The first thing I heard was a loud, crackling voice over the intercom flat. Robotic. Devoid of anything remotely human.
Let's try this again.
It droned, dragging the words out like a threat dressed up as a promise. I was starving. Not just hungry. Starving. I would have eaten a horse, hell, I would have eaten it alive at this point. For now, I decided I would behave. For the moment, anyway. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, slow, deliberate, and then the door creaked open. This time, it was Gay Ray. He shuffled inside, carrying a tray in his gloved hands, and some sort of metal device that resembled a cell phone, his face a tight mask of unreadable emotion. Something in his posture, the way he wouldn't quite look me in the eye, told me that whatever game they were playing with me, it wasn't even close to over. By now, the restraints were off, and I was sitting at a battered table in what they called the day room. When Ray brought over the tray, the food looked ordinary, nothing suspicious. I figured if they wanted me dead, they'd have done it already. So, I snatched the tray from him without hesitation. Hunger had a way of making pride optional. He sat down beside me, his movements stiff and careful, like he was worried I might bolt. Can you please tell me what the hell is going on here? I muttered under my breath, mouth full of half-chewed raw carrots, leaning in just enough so no one else could hear. Ray glanced around the room, the blank cameras tucked into every corner, and spoke in a low, conspiratorial tone.
They think you're sedated enough now that you've learned your lesson from yesterday. This is just a little time out before they lock you down again. There's no escaping this place. The restraints aren't just for safety, they're a form of control.
Well, no shit. I muttered.
They use them, take them off sometimes, not out of mercy but, as a reward, a little treat for corporation.
I cut him off, my voice sharper than I intended. That's not what I asked. Why the hell am I here? Why are they doing this to me? Ray leaned in closer, his voice dropping even lower.
All I can tell you is that this piece, it's a top-secret government behavioral study.
I stared at him, jaw-tight. Behavioral study? What the hell kind of study kidnaps people?
Let me ask you something. Did you happen to come across any drugs recently? Anything unusual?
I narrowed my eyes. Wait. Can't they hear you talking to me? He paused just long enough to make me uneasy, then held up the odd device he'd brought in. It looked like a cell phone, but distorted somehow. Sleeker, heavier, off.
Not with this here.
He said.
It scrambles the coms, makes it sound like I'm saying exactly what I'm supposed to be saying to you.
He glanced at the mirrored corner of the ceiling and lowered his voice. He tapped the device.
This is all we got.
Then his gaze sharpened as he continued.
Now, back to the question. Did you come across any random pills, drugs, anything that didn't belong?
My stomach twisted. Actually, yeah, I found some pills stuffed inside a bulletproof vest, I said. They were dilaudid. I looked them up, called poison control. He cut me off with a sharp shake of his head.
Actually, they weren't.
He said, voice tight.
They just wanted you to think that's what they were.
I blinked. What do you mean?
You'd think they'd hide ordinary painkillers in a vest like that. Nah, that was part of the misdirection. Label them like a narcotic. Bury them somewhere someone like you would find them. And when you look them up, all you get is a false sense of control.
I felt a cold knot twist in my gut. So what were they? He exhaled through his nose, almost a laugh, but not the funny kind.
They were the cocktail, the kind that opens the door. Problem is,
he looked past me, like he was suddenly watching something approach over my shoulder.
Once you open it, you don't get to decide who or what walks through.
His eyes hardened.
And you took them.
Of course I did, I snapped. What the hell else was I supposed to do with them? But you already knew I took them, so why bother asking me? He didn't answer. Instead, he let out a slow breath, like he was bracing for a punch.
That's how they do it, that's why you're here.
He said, voice low.
You were flagged a known drug addict, potential medium, and a lucid dreamer.
Lucid dreamer? I said. What the hell does that have to do with anything? And how the hell do you even know that about me?
I didn't.
He admitted.
But they did. Those pills you took. Let's just say they were still in the testing phase, the very beginning of testing.
Are you trying to tell me I'm some sort of lab rat? He paced a little, restless.
Those pills, they target your pineal gland. You know, the so-called third eye. Only certain people are highly susceptible.
He trailed off, eyes distant for a second, then snapped back.
People like you.
He said. I blinked. People like me? What the hell was that supposed to mean? What's the end goal here? I asked. What are they planning for me? Ray didn't answer right away. His eyes dropped to the floor finally, he said.
They want to incorporate you for the four, though.
He stumbled over his words.
The commune.
I frowned. The commune? What the hell is that? Some kind of secret project? A building?
I don't know for sure, but from what little I have heard, it doesn't sound good.
He admitted.
Everything's compartmentalized. Nobody gets the full picture. The right hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Don't you mean the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing?
Why, right what you just said.
He sounded tired. Or scared. Maybe both.
I've only heard bits and pieces.
He added.
Rumors, data leaks, glitches in the system.
I stared at him. You're saying this place doesn't even know what it's doing?
Not exactly.
he said.
More like it knows too much and not enough at the same time.
My thoughts raced. Nothing was adding up. How was I supposed to know what to believe? Then he said it, almost in a whisper.
The drug has you halfway in reality, and halfway in the ether, or the astral plane, parallel dimension, or whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.
He said, voice low, eyes flicking toward the walls like they might start listening.
It's a real place that does really exist. But in regarding to the drugs they gave you, it's what we call a three-tier cocktail. Part consciousness expander, part hallucinogen, part dissociative, all layered together.
What I didn't know, not then, was that this place wasn't about recovery. It never had been. I had a million questions bubbling just beneath the surface, trying to claw their way out. Questions about the worms. Questions about the creature I attacked, causing those disgusting, horrible maggot-like creatures to spill out. Questions about what the hell had just happened to me. But the moment I opened my mouth to speak, he cut me off with a sharp shake of his head. He motioned subtly toward the corner of the ceiling. I followed his gaze and saw them, cameras, black-domed and silent, like unblinking eyes.
Not now.
He whispered, his voice barely audible.
If I spend too much time here, they'll notice. This device only alters the audio feed. It doesn't block the visuals. I'm only allowed so much time with you. I'm here to keep you as calm as possible, to persuade you to cooperate.
His voice trailed off, eyes flicking to the exit.
I have to go.
But wait, I demanded. Cooperate? I said. The words coming out choked and desperate, my voice cracked under the strain. I was still reeling. Still stuck in that place where worms burst like blisters and my skin remembered every squirm. Please. He just simply left me with these last words.
All I can tell you is, you can't trust everything you see in this place. You have no way of knowing what is real. But I can tell you this, the armadillo chameleons are real. Avoid them at all costs.
But wait. Armadillo chameleons? What the hell are? I trailed off. But he didn't answer, and he simply stood, calm, almost detached, and walked away. No rush, no panic, just a quiet exit, like he hadn't just saved my life and shattered everything I thought I understood. His final warning kept echoing in my skull like a bad ringtone. All I can tell you is, you can't trust everything you see in this place. You have no way of knowing what's real. Great, thanks for the existential crisis, my brain. Total chaos, a riot of noise and questions screaming for answers that weren't coming. You won't know what's real? Seriously? And armadillo chameleons? What the hell are armadillo chameleons? What kind of warped nightmare circus did I just stumble into? Door clicked shut behind him, too quiet, and to be honest, at this point, I had no idea who I could trust. I'd never felt so alone in my life. Then she came in. The nurse from earlier. At first glance, she looked almost normal. If you ignored the pallid skin and sunken eyes, I looked away for a second. When I looked back, she had changed. She wasn't human anymore. The first thing I noticed were her, or its, legs. Jutting out from beneath the short hem of a nurse's uniform, now little more than a mockery of humanity. They weren't legs anymore. Long, jointed appendages, sheathed in a slick, yellow membrane, semi-translucent, like the outer shell of a scorpion. The skin stretched too tightly over something alive beneath it. Through the glassy tissue, I could see the veins, thick, writhing, and pulsating. They throbbed in unnatural colors, dark, sluggish burgundy coursing beside glowing neon purple, and a fiery orange that flickered like molten metal. Each pulse seemed to move independently, as though her blood had forgotten how to flow in one direction. But as I looked closer, I realized it wasn't blood at all. The veins weren't pumping fluid, they were swarming. Beneath the translucent scorpion skin, those vivid, pulsating vessels revealed themselves as narrow tunnels, alive with movement. Inside, thousands of tiny, insect-like creatures scuttled in both directions, moving with eerie coordination along the winding paths of her limbs. Some were glossy and jet black, others translucent and jelly-like, their twitching legs tapping against the inner walls of her skin as they traveled. They formed tangled streams, traffic flowing up and down like a living circulatory system. Each twitch and jolt syncing to some sick rhythm that had nothing to do with a heartbeat. They moved too fast, too purposefully, like workers in a hive, tending to some hidden engine within her. Occasionally, one would stop, twitch violently, and split open, releasing a cloud of twitching larvae that immediately joined the swarm without pause. It wasn't a body. It was a vessel. There was nothing human left in those legs, just an imitation built to walk and maybe chase. The transformation had twisted her into something smaller, malformed, barely 4 feet tall. Her limbs hung wrong, like a marionette with cut strings. Flesh sagged from her bones in odd places, as if trying to escape. Her head was missing. Her human head that was just there merely seconds ago was gone. In its place stood the head of a shark. Snout raised to the ceiling as though drowning in air. No nostrils, no breath, just those beady shark eyes. They had changed reptilian, vertical. The pupils were slits, needle-thin and black, like cuts in glass. It didn't breathe, it didn't blink. Then, without a sound, it reached for a small, flickering panel embedded in the wall. Its fingers moved with unnatural precision, tapping in a sequence on what looked like a decaying interface. And just like that, it turned and vanished down the corridor. Left alone in the room, paralyzed by what I'd just seen, I could only sit there, mouth slack, breath shallow, heart trying to crawl out of my chest. She wasn't there to talk to me, maybe just to observe, maybe just to catalog my reaction like it was part of some lab report. Who knows what the hell she was there for, or if she was even real at this point. The line between hallucination and horror was about as thin as the mattress they let me sleep on. Gay Ray's last words played through my head once more, like a broken record with just enough menace to keep skipping at the worst part.
Can't trust everything you see in this place. You have no way of knowing what is real.
I felt... what? Watched? Contaminated? Like my nervous system had been rewired to scream at nothing in particular. That thing had walked away, but I knew it wasn't over. I suddenly had a thought that finally cracked through the terror. It was sharp and urgent. I have to get out. I have to escape this hell right then and there. Something in me snapped. I will do whatever it takes to escape this place, whatever it fucking takes. The fear didn't vanish, it calcified, hardened into something sharp and burning in my gut. I didn't care what this place was anymore. I didn't care what it was. All I cared about was leaving as soon as humanly possible. I sat down for a moment and tried to sleep. No use, my mind wouldn't stop. Whatever this place was, detox, hospital, prison, slaughterhouse, I couldn't stay. I wouldn't survive another encounter with some outerworldly creature, real or in my head. But then, nothing came. Minutes passed. Maybe hours, hell days for all I knew, and with that auto syringe they were free to drug me with whatever they felt appropriate. The silence pressed in, thick and unnatural, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. No footsteps. No voices. No flicker of movement under the door. I was alone, and the entrance to the bay, wide open. No locks. No guards. Just an open path, like an invitation. That was the first red flag. Nothing in this place felt random, yet everything looked random. That was the paradox, a chaos too deliberate to be true chaos. Like the whole place was engineered to confuse, to disorient, to keep me guessing. Which made the open door feel less like freedom, and more like bait. But set up or not, I wasn't staying here to rot. If this was a trap, I'd spring it on my own terms. I was going for it. Not escape exactly, more like a dramatic shuffle toward the nearest, maybe not deadly exit. I had no plan. Just momentum, adrenaline, and that lovely cocktail of confusion and creeping paranoia. But before I could make my move, the door creaked open and in walked Ray. Oh good, I muttered to myself. Maybe he converted back to women. Nope. That would be too good to be true. And yet, despite everything, somehow, I knew he was real either way. I wasn't letting this moment go. I was gonna get some answers. Ray, I said, standing straighter than I had in hours. If you're actually real and not another hallucination sent to emotionally confuse me, can we please skip the cryptic nonsense and maybe, just maybe, give me a straight answer? Still wielding his sleek little cell phone-looking device, something that definitely didn't belong to this decade, he said.
I have a little time with you. They want to debrief you as to why you're...
He trailed off like the sentence bored him halfway through.
Of course, I'm not supposed to give you any real information.
He added, as casually as someone commenting on the weather.
Let's just say it's kind of scripted, but I'm sure that's no surprise.
Ray, I said, slowly. I need answers. Real ones. Preferably before I'm dissected by whatever's breathing in the vents.
Okay, first let me ask you this. Have you ever displayed any special ability as anything that would be considered extraordinary?
Yeah, I said. For as long as I can remember. I would have certain dreams, the same ones over and over, and then they would happen in real life also. When I was growing, I would know who was calling before anyone would answer the phone, and this was in the 1980s before anyone had caller ID. And there were the dreams. I mean, there is more to tell about the dreams, Ray urged gently.
Tell me about the dreams.
Oh, yeah, the dreams. Dreams are among some of my earliest memories. In other words, for most people, their first memories happened in their awake hours of the day. Not so with me. My first memories are dreams, and if I wanted something like a toy or just something to happen, I would dream about it, and it would happen, or I would get the toy I wanted. I guess you can say I could manifest things I wanted by purposely dreaming about it. Ray leaned back, nodding slowly.
You were a gray coat's wet dream. No wonder they wanted you.
What's a gray coat? I said.
It's my word for someone who is involved in covert and shady top-secret operations like CIA or members of other government agencies. Some people call them suits or feds. I call them gray coats.
Wait a minute. You're part of this. You work for them. You're a willing participant. You knew what they were doing, and you helped them anyway. I jabbed a finger at his chest. You're a real piece of shit. You know that? How can I? Why should I trust you? I repeated myself just to drive the point home. You truly are a piece of shit. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he just stared down at the tray between us, voice barely more than a whisper. Ray froze. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His jaw tightened like he was bracing for impact.
Let me finish, and I'll explain everything I know.
He raised a gloved hand, motioning for me to slow down. But then I asked him, "Why are you helping me?" My voice was low, uncertain. Answer me, Ray.
I didn't know it'd be like this.
Like what? Locked in a sterile hellhole, pumped full of God knows what? I stood up. My arms were trembling. My eyes were wide with either anger or fear. I couldn't even tell anymore. He said,
They told me it was just a study.
And you believed them? He said, finally meeting my eyes.
Detox, support, experimental therapies, high supervision. No one was supposed to get hurt. I wanted to believe them. Well, for starters, the pay wasn't half bad.
He was stumbling over his words again. He paused and swallowed hard.
And I thought maybe I could do something right for once. Then someone from the old program sent me a message. I dropped out of nursing school second year. I couldn't keep up, not with my dad dying. Not with the bills, not with everything else. Said there was a private clinic doing detox trials. Said all I had to do was monitor patients, keep notes, be quiet.
Be quiet about what?
About how it's not a detox center. Not really. I only know bits and pieces. I know they are experimenting with the portal to another reality, but I do not have all the details. Some of the information came in my orientation. Some of the information is rumors. It doesn't matter now. What matters is you're still here, and I owe you more than just silence. They don't want you remembering. That's part of it. Whatever they're testing, it's not just physical. It messes with your mind. I've seen patients forget their own names, saw a girl scream for hours because she thought her skin was made of glass.
He glanced up toward the ceiling, toward the blinking red light of the camera in the corner. So why stay? Why now?
Because I have become dependent on the good paid. I have outstanding student loans. Without a finished degree, I felt I had limited options.
He said quietly. Is that so? I glared at him as he continued. I took a shaky step back, trying to process the weight of what Ray was saying. And then he continued.
I only been here a few weeks and I am just now realizing the scope and magnitude of what really go on here. I have seen so-called patients go to the commune room to never be seen again. They told me no one would get hurt, but I am slowly realizing that is a lie. You were reclassified almost immediately. You're not a conditional. You were only supposed to be here for 3 days tops, just to be studied and observed. And now they are saying they'd want you to go to the commune. People like you, young, healthy, full of life, you were never supposed to be used for this experiment. I'm staying now because my conscience won't let me abandon you.
There was no performance in his voice, just the raw truth of someone who had finally stopped pretending.
The designation of conditional was originally meant for the terminally ill. People who consented, but the bastards changed the rules, twisted them to fit their obsession with knowledge and control. But I guess the volunteer list was a little short. I don't know if I can fix this.
Ray said quietly.
But I will do everything I can to help you get out of here.
He said, watching his eyes flick toward the ceiling again, like maybe something up there was keeping time that we couldn't see. Don't you have limited time here with me? Won't they get suspicious if you're here too long?
My time is always limited with you.
Why don't you tell me something useful then?
The only possible way out is through the cave system. It's your best shot.
Cave system? I repeated, his words like a parrot.
That's where the portal to the other side is. They built this whole facility branching out from it. It was discovered by a group of kids who stumbled on a massive cave system when they were finally rescued by a search party. They blabbed their mouths off to anyone who would listen. They saw the portal, but they didn't understand what it was. Most did not believe them, of course, but they must have told one too many people, and word got out to the right people, or the wrong people, depending on who you ask. Somewhere along the way, I assume someone was just repeating the outlandish story, not believing a word of it, of course, but using it to prove how ridiculous the whole notion was, and how kids these days have such active imaginations. And that's when the government suits, mind you, got wind of it, because nothing says time to investigate like a good old-fashioned children's fantasy. But, like I said, it's your best chance of escape. It's your only chance of escape.
Ray said.
However, if you even make it that far, you'll need help to navigate the cave system, which contains the portal, which is the most dangerous part. The portal, you know, falling into that is a fate worse than death.
He looked at me, seriously now.
The actual portal is dangerous, outer-worldly, and final.
Final as in death? I asked, already regretting it. He shook his head.
No, much worse. Final as in eternity without second chances.
My stomach sank.
You'll need flashlights, food, water, warm clothing, and someone you can trust to get you what you need fast.
He paused, then asked.
Is there anyone on the outside who could help you?
Didn't even hesitate. Sophie popped into my head immediately, my ride or die bestie. Yeah, I said my best friend Sophie. Jesus, no, I mean Sophia. We've known each other since we were 5. We'd die for each other.
Do you want me to call her? She's probably having a heart attack thinking you've been kidnapped by a cult or eaten by coyotes.
Yeah, can you tell her what's going on? She's probably worried sick.
I could do that, but not here. I'll have to wait until I leave for the night. But will she even answer the phone at midnight? Will she be awake? And why would she believe some random dude?
Oh, she'll be awake, I said, voice dropping low but sober. That's another story.
Why would she believe what I have to say? Some random guy call her hers the middle of the night with this outlandish story is there. Something I could tell her that no one else would know, so she believes what I have to say.
Well, I said, shifting uncomfortably. There's something only she and I know. It's kind of embarrassing. Ray leaned in like I was about to confess to murder. I sighed. One time, when we were really drunk, we sort of made out, like, seriously made out. There might have been tongue. We swore we'd never tell a living soul.
You think that's gonna convince her that you're alive because I know you drunkenly Frenched your best friend?
Ray blinked. She'll know you're trying to help me. It's the one thing no one else knows.
Honestly, I was hoping for a weirder secret, like you buried a body together or made a blood pact, something with more flair.
He shrugged. I rolled my eyes, sorry to disappoint.
Don't be look at me. I hoped you would say that you guys had participated in a blood sacrifice once. Dark arts witchcraft ceremony kind of thing. I thought everyone did that sort of thing.
Ray grinned. I blinked. He shrugged. What?
College was a weird time. Lots of chanting. Someone brought hummus. Anyway, do I look like the kind of guy who'd judge you for locking lips with your best friend? I've been arrested twice, and I still talk to my plants.
Do they talk back?
Only when I water them with whiskey. I have to go. If I'm gone too long, they'll get suspicious. But I'll come back. I'll tell you more, when it's safer.
But wait, my words stumbled over each other, trailing off as he stood, moving quickly to his feet.
I'll come back as soon as I can. In the meantime, I'll try to find out more, and I'll call your friend once I'm off tonight.
Yeah, you do that, and when you get back I want to know more about the armadillo chameleons. Why did you give such a stern warning about them? What's up with that?
Those godforsaken things, they come straight out of hell and into this world through the portal. They look somewhat harmless, but they are not. If you make even the slightest contact with one, you will experience horrors beyond comprehension. If you happen to cross one, all I can say is this: run faster than you ever have before. Run like your life depends on it, because quite frankly it does.
And with those words he left me alone to ponder my situation and reeling in fear and anxiety over. Armadillo chameleons, they probably don't even exist, I thought. More or less to comfort myself more than anything. Just like that, I was alone, left sitting in this sterile, soulless box, surrounded by silence thick enough to choke on, the kind of silence that makes you feel like the walls are listening. My thoughts turned dark fast, rushing in like floodwater, too fast to stop. I laid down, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding even though I wasn't moving. How long had it been since I'd actually slept? Hell, how long had I been here? Time didn't exist here in any way that made sense. It bent, broke, slipped sideways. I could have been here a week or a month or 100 years and I wouldn't know the difference. I'm not sure if I ever truly fell asleep, or if I just blacked out from sheer exhaustion, but eventually, the shadows shifted. Something had changed. I got up, body aching in ways I couldn't explain. And then I saw it. The bay door wide open again, no sound, no alert. Just open, my breath caught in my throat. Lucky me, right? Or maybe not. Because something about it felt too easy, too quiet, like bait left out by something that had learned how to hunt slowly. I didn't know if the door was my way out, or just the start of whatever came next. I stepped into the hallway. It was long and narrow, the kind of corridor that seemed to stretch farther than logic allowed, like the walls themselves were conspiring to disorient me. The floor was covered in a checkerboard pattern of tiles, alternating shades of tired, institutional white. Nearly identical at first glance. The lighting was dim, flickering slightly in intervals from a series of recessed overhead fixtures. The bulbs buzzed faintly, and the hum of unseen wiring thrummed through the walls like a second heartbeat. Shadows clung to the corners, refusing to be pushed back by the weak fluorescent light. The air smelled faintly of bleach and old concrete, sterile, but not clean. Too quiet. Too still. As I slowly walked through the brightly lit corridor, I noticed the walls were lined with a faded institutional white about halfway up, then turned to a dull time-age off-white hue. No windows. No signs, just a repeating pattern of closed metal doors, each with a tiny, dark square where a number might have once been. The hallway was a liminal space, the kind that didn't exist in the real world, only in nightmares or somewhere between sanity and surrender. I crept forward, each step measured like a predator stalking prey. Breath held, every sense on high alert. The hallway was still, too still, like the building itself was holding its breath. I took one more step forward, then another. That's when I heard them, footsteps, close. Too close. Not distant and echoing, nearby, just around the corner ahead. A sharp, methodical rhythm. Getting louder. Getting closer. I froze mid-step. I started to panic. I didn't know who or what was coming, but every instinct screamed danger. My eyes locked on a door halfway down the hallway. I didn't know why it stood out. Just a plain, metal door. But instinct clawed at my chest. Go. I moved fast, but careful. My breath trembled in my throat. The footsteps came again, closer now, the kind of close that turns your blood cold. They were just around the corner, only feet away. Whoever it was, they'd be in the hallway in seconds. I reached the door, almost there. I could see the handle, already stretching my fingers out. The footsteps hit the corner. Close. Growing louder by the second. They were coming. I was about to get caught outside my base snooping around. I grabbed the handle and twisted. It was locked. No. I yanked it again, harder. Nothing. My hands were slick with sweat. The footsteps were right behind me now, boots scraping the floor. I spun around, back to the door, eyes locked on the corner as a shadow stretched across the floor. My heart surged into my throat. A figure stepped into view.
Lisa.
The voice was low and familiar. It was Gay Ray. "Oh, thank God," I said. A surge of relief flooded over me. He raised his hand slowly, in his fingers the keycard to the locked door.
You look like you could use some help.
He said, calm as ever. "Oh my God," I whispered, hands still clutching the useless doorknob. "You scared the hell out of me." Ray just smiled.
Come on, let's get inside.
"I thought you had to get back to reception," I declared with the slightest feeling that something was off, but I kept it to myself.
No, I was just spending too much time in your bay.
He whispered. "The door." I motioned back to my bay.
Oh yeah, that was deliberate.
He said ever so slowly, with calculated and precise thought with every word.
Now this room is directly across from
"The commune," I finished his sentence.
The commune leads to the only exit besides the highly secured one at the entrance.
"So exactly where is this commune?"
It's not a where, it's a living thing.
"What the hell? A living thing? What's that supposed to mean? You never mentioned that before. You said you had limited information on the commune, and now you're telling me it's a living thing." He didn't answer me. Instead, he just opened the door.
After you.
I took one step inside, and that's when I knew Ray had betrayed me. The air changed. Heavier now. Charged, like the pressure before a storm. Even though I was still indoors, the air smelled like it had just rained, sharp, clean, a scent I'd always loved. The scent of concrete cooling under droplets, rain on dirt, not mistakable, not imagined. And with all that information, then the lighting changed. The corridor dimmed, but not with shadow, no, it glowed. It wasn't the sickly buzz of fluorescence anymore, it was something else. The air thickened with a golden hue, like the hallway had been bathed in the ambient light of a harvest moon. Deep, amber-toned light shimmered against the tiled floor, as if it were coming from actual flames dancing just out of sight. The walls pulsed faintly with warmth, and every surface flickered, soft, glowing, and wrong. It was beautiful in a way that made my stomach twist. For a heartbeat, I could almost believe I was outside, standing beneath an open autumn sky, the scent of dry leaves on the wind, the kind of night where everything feels hushed and sacred. But I wasn't outside. There was no wind, no sky, no night. Just the stale, recycled air and the low hum of something unnatural vibrating in the walls. And it was too painfully obvious. This was an illusion, a projection, a manipulation, something carefully crafted. It didn't belong here. It didn't make sense. The warmth was real, but it wasn't comforting. It crawled across my skin like a warning. The hallway had transformed into a stage. And I had just stepped into the spotlight. I turned, slowly. And saw it. No, I saw them. The shadows shifted, then I saw them. The armadillo chameleons. Just like Ray had warned me. Grotesque, unnatural things. Their eyes twitched independently. Their armor-plated skin shimmered and shifted like oil slicks. They didn't move like any living creature should. They moved like they knew you, like they were already inside your head. "Ray," I whispered, even though I already knew the answer. "What are those?" He didn't respond, didn't even look at me. His eyes were locked on the floor, like he couldn't bear to meet mine. Guilt radiated off him in waves. Tense, sour, heavy. It hit me slow at first, like the realization was trying to be merciful. Then it slammed into me all at once, violent and undeniable. "Ray." My voice cracked, venom bubbling beneath the grief. "You bastard." My hands shook. "I trusted you. You're two-faced, rat, betrayer. You warned me about them all along, and now you've led me straight to them?" He flinched like I'd hit him. "You asshole. Why?" "I just need to know why." His lips moved, but the words stumbled out like they were covered in thorns. His voice was nothing but shredded guilt.
I'm sorry.
He said. I laughed. Cold. Dead. "Yeah. I've heard that before. You owe me more than sorry, Ray." He finally looked up, and I almost wished he hadn't. The pain in his eyes was real, but it didn't erase the betrayal.
They caught on to us.
He whispered, voice cracking.
They knew everything. They threatened the people I love. Said they'd disappear. Said I'd vanish next.
I stared at him, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. There it was, the truth, raw, ugly. Not just betrayal, sacrifice. He gave me up to save himself. And now those things were here. Then he slowly walked to the door, head downcast. He left me to my fate. With those abominations. I backed myself into a corner. One of them uncurled and slid forward. Its movements were silent, too smooth for its size. Their bodies glowed under the flickering light, slick scales gleaming in unnatural, neon green. They looked like armored nightmares, reptilian and compact, their backs covered in overlapping plates like a prehistoric armadillo fused with a heat-seeking missile. Their eyes twitched in separate directions, scanning the corridor with clinical malice. The first one I laid eyes on gave me a first-hand lesson in just how twisted these things were. Every movement was a glitch in reality. Its tongue, long, wet, and violently pink, shot from its mouth, extending to nearly 10 times its own length. It hit the exit with a smack, sealing the door in a grotesque, fleshy blockade. I braced myself, expecting the tongue to snap back into its mouth. But instead, something worse. The tongue pulled the creature. The lizard was yanked forward, flipping into the air, spinning wildly as its own tongue coiled around it like a ribbon and fast forward. Round and round it went, doing cartwheels grotesquely, the tongue wrapping tighter, again and again, at least 10 full coils, until the whole thing looked like a tightly wound bundle of claws, scales, and tension. 3 more creatures came, scuttling forward with eerie coordination to join the first. Together, they formed a grotesque totem pole, 4 lizards high, each one stacking itself atop the other with unnatural precision. Their claws clicked against armored backs as they climbed, forming a living column of twitching eyes, flicking tongues, and plated scales. They moved like a machine, each one springing its tongue in perfect rotation, curling into tight coils before launching again. It was synchronized. Deliberate. A biomechanical gauntlet guarding the door I could only assume led one step closer to freedom. I could almost taste it, the outdoors. The real outdoors. Fresh air. Open sky. Dirt underfoot instead of steel. So I waited. Timed their rhythm. Counted the seconds between each grotesque launch and retraction. My breath slowed. Muscles coiled, ready. Then I went for it. I sprinted, hard, low, eyes fixed on the gap as one tongue retracted and another prepared to launch. I was almost through. Then blam! One of them nailed me, dead on, the pink whip lashed out and cracked against my exposed ankle like a coiled bolt of lightning. T wasn't just a hit, it bit. Their tongue, or whatever that slick, twitching horror was, felt like it had the barbs of a jellyfish. And venom? Yeah. That part 1 learned fast.
End of part 2. If you like the story so far, please like and subscribe. Part 3 is coming.